So the Worlds has recapped, and so many of you have asked, "Hey, Chael, how come you didn't do a recap of the final day?" Well, I don't really have an answer. I guess old Chael was sleeping on it, and I just assumed that we were all up to date. And when I come at you a dollar short and a day late, I figure it's old news. But if you'd like one, here it goes. So, I mean, let's start with Tyler Graff. Tyler Graff can do anything in the world against anybody in the world. But that's one of those weight classes that everything has to line up. That's true. I've seen that go in his favor before, where he's taken on world medalists that maybe were sleeping on him because he was a new guy coming out of the U.S. And I've seen it work in his favor before, where he's just so fast and he's so determined and he's so skilled. He's also a guy that you don't want to run into in the opening rounds, right? You'll hear so many times about athletes that are slow starters, but you'll never hear about athletes that are fast starters, that do better earlier in the day than they do later in the day. I couldn't even tell you what, but you don't want to run into Graff early in a tournament. You go follow his career, nobody's going to tell me I'm wrong on that. Tyler Graff has not lost the opening match of a tournament or the second match of a tournament since he was 7 years old, by the way. So he comes out, he looks fantastic, he sees this as his opportunity. Non-Olympic weight class. Got over on a world medalist in Joe Cologne just to get the boom. He's making the most of it. He looked fantastic. And then there was some guys that he ran into that also looked fantastic. That's just what happens. So 6 minutes later, what do you do for the Worlds of Wrestling? You look at the scoreboard. Whoever's got more points gets their hand raised, and that's all that happened. I loved his effort. I don't regret 1 second of staying up till 4 in the morning to watch Graff. You go into Downey, okay? Now, I have a little bit more personal involvement with Downey. I'm out here in Oregon, and contrary to a lot of popular belief, Downey actually was planning to come to Oregon to wrestle college. I met him on his recruiting trip at CCC. Coach Roden introduced me to him. So I've stayed in contact with him over the years, watching him do this, watching him progress, watching all the crap that he went through his senior year of collegiate eligibility, which was nothing short than underhanded, but a whole nother story. To watch him get this chance, and plus he's a street fighter out there, right? He's got his knees bent and he's in a wrestling position, but he just showed up to fight. It's so for many of the wrong reasons, I love to watch Downey. For the same reason I like to watch Austin DeSanto. Yes, I admit there for many of the wrong reasons, you're getting my attention. Does a great job. Eventually he gets chest locked early on in a match, like 17 seconds in, 4 points. Somewhere there was a challenge by the U.S. It doesn't go our way. He's down 5 points 24 seconds into this match. It's very hard to not lose your composure. It's a great thing and an easy way to sell books, to be a coach and say, you just got to reset and you got to refocus. That's true. That is what you need to do in those situations. Going out and doing that, it's not really a reality. And he is no different. He went out, he was looking for body locks, he was looking for laterals, he wanted to get those 4 points back, he needed to get back on the board, he knew time was ticking down, even if there's still 5.5 minutes left. These guys, international wrestling, are very good at closing out a match. And they'll shut down in a match. It'll take 3 minutes before the referee even realized, oh wait, this guy shut down. Tough to do. Downey tried to get his points back, didn't happen. You move on. Kyle Dake, right? Kyle Dake goes out and just does what Kyle Dake does. There was one interesting thing about Kyle Dake, though. Coming into this tournament, now this guy's won 4 NCAA championships, and he's a world champion. Anything you can do, he's done. But one thing that he did is he went through the world championships, his first one ever, last year, and did not give up a point. 44 points scored by Dake, 0 points scored collectively by all of his opponents. I could be wrong when I tell you this stat, but I do not believe that had been done by an American since 1972 when Gable did it in the Olympics. If I'm wrong on that, feel free to correct me. I'll read it, I'll correct myself, and I'll credit you. But it was a very big deal that Dake had done this, and it was also the talk. Dake had come out. People weren't even calling him a 4-time NCAA champion anymore. They weren't even calling him a world champion anymore. Brand new headline. 44-0 world champion. It was the biggest thing. Comes into this year's world championship, snaps the front headlock down 2 seconds into the match, rolls to his own back. Guy stops and boom, Dake gives up too. So what a difference a day makes, right? Dake comes back, texts that guy. But it was just one of those interesting things. I can remember back all the way to high school. This guy ran out to wrestle in the state finals. And one of the announcer was reading the tournaments he won and what his record was and how he had done in Fargo and where he signed for college. I mean, it was just all of these different things. Wonderful things. One of the things the announcer says is, he hasn't given up a takedown all season. I had never heard that claim before. Now, possibly because I'd never seen a guy wrestle for a state championship that could make that claim, but I'd never heard that claim before. 2 seconds into the match, his opponent takes him down. It was like the curse. And I felt that for Kyle. And I don't say any of that is negative. I don't think you'd interpret it as negative, but to be clear, I thought it was a cool thing, right? I mean, you get that right off your bat, right out of the gate. That pressure is gone. The only pressure that Kyle Dake came into that tournament to do is the only pressure that nobody would let him outlive, which is that he had not given up a point at the World Championship. He got that monkey off his back 2 seconds into the match. Proceeds to roll through the tournament. Ends up in the finals in a rematch with the same guy he had last year, who is a painfully boring wrestler. The guy is just fantastic. He is painfully boring. I acknowledge he is the second best wrestler in the world. I acknowledge it was the right guy. I have no complaints, but I'm telling you, there's some guys that are just dull. Kyle Dake is the only guy alive that can make that guy look good. Kyle goes 4-2 with this guy this year. He goes 2-0 with him last year. That's a combined 6-2 over 12 minutes of action, and it's fun to watch. Dake is just that guy. He's just fun. Cox wins the gold. That was the night before, but I can't remember if we cover it. And then you get into Snyder. Snyder, here's the problem with Snyder, okay? He's the best. He's very basic. He's only got a couple of attacks. He's got incredible strength. He's got incredible gas tank. Okay, great. That's what Snyder is. Great. But if you're a coach, and that's all you have to deal with, over the course of somebody's success, and he has had tremendous success, it's also something that you can break down on video quite easy. A lot easier than you can some of these more dynamic wrestlers with more dynamic attacks. It's something you can break down. And when Kyle Snyder got his level of success, everybody started studying him. Everybody. This guy studied within the country. This guy studied within Russia. He studied within Cuba. He studied within Germany. He studied by the Swedes. This guy is one of those guys. They're just going to shut him down. Their first goal, it's a moral victory for some of these guys if they can just get to the end of the match with Snyder. No matter what the score is or how bad the ass kicking was, if you can just get those minutes with him, you've succeeded. That's a very real thing. As a coach, I have patted some athletes on the back in failure for going out and keeping a match close. It's a very real thing. When you're dealing with Snyder, a lot of times that is your only hope. Your only hope of getting an attaboy to make it 6 minutes. Okay, great. So he's got to work hard. Guys are doing that. They're shutting him down. He's still teching them. He's still throwing these guys all over. He's still never in jeopardy. But the match is a lot harder than if two guys just went out there and wrestled. Now you got one guy wrestling against a guy who doesn't want to wrestle. Fine. That's what happens. Over the course of a tournament, when that's happening to you, you're going to experience some stuff that other guys aren't, mainly fatigue. I'm not coming out to tell you that Kyle was fatigued. I'm sharing with you this is one of the things that happens when you're an elite guy who is studied nonstop. When your name is known in every wrestling room on the face of the country and every coach shows technique and then says, this is something Kyle Snyder does. You start to learn Kyle Snyder a little bit. Great. Hadn't really slowed him down yet, but it's one of the things that he has to deal with. He gets into the semifinals. Oh, and by the way, he's taken on the 2011 world champion, who was the 2012 Olympic champion, who was the 2016 bronze medalist out of Azerbaijan. I've watched Kyle wrestle this guy before. I watched it with my own eyes. Kyle didn't have that hard of a time. I believe they have wrestled twice before. I got to see him wrestle once. I believe they've wrestled twice. Kyle didn't have a hard time either match. And all of a sudden, it was just the guy grabs a takedown, then he goes right into a push out. He's got 3 points. In international wrestling against an Olympic champion, 3 points. You've heard the expression, the bank closes at 5. Okay, a match closes at 3 points. I mean, Kyle comes back, they get into a dogfight, but ultimately, you know, if he'd not given up that first takedown, I think that match would have been different. It closed out at 5-2, but it was just one of those deals, you know, or he was scouted. It was one of those deals. He didn't put his focus into having to scout anybody because nobody's beaten him aside from Sajalayev. One of those deals. I don't know that he was ready for that entire bracket the way that they were ready for him. And he fights his way back through. He comes back. He gets a bronze. It was a very honorable performance. But for me, in large part, and I will admit I have sour grapes. Yes, I do. I'm a fan. I'm an American wrestling fan. I didn't get my way. But for me, in the grand scheme of things, I got to take that match. With Azerbaijan, I just throw it out. I firmly do not believe that could happen again. It hadn't happened before. I don't believe it would happen again. I think it was a one-off. There's the recap of the World Championships. We won't be able to talk about this again for a year, but it'll go quickly.